They say Pawcity never sleeps. That's a lie. It sleeps its just dreams ugly. I was trying to drown another sleepless night with cheap coffee and even cheaper jazz when the knocking started. 3 precise taps, like a metronome counting down to something awful. When I opened the door, no one was there. Just a small, unassuming wooden box on my welcome mat, tied with a simple red string. My name, Constantine, was burned into the lid with something that smelled like smoke and a whole lot of regret. I hesitated because in my line of work, unexpected packages are never good news, but curiosity, as they say, is a cat's curse. Inside was a tail, a cat's tail, black fur soft to the touch and still. Warm, my stomach dropped. Beneath it a single folded note, the paper brittle and old. In familiar spidery script it read, "Find him before midnight. L.T." I knew only one L.T., Lorenzo Taylor. A recluse, a genius, a legend whispered about in the darkest corners of the city. They called him the Clockwork Tailor of Old Alley, a master craftsman who could stitch mechanical limbs, clockwork hearts, anything broken. Except, perhaps himself, he'd vanished years ago, swallowed by rumors that he'd begun rebuilding cats who didn't necessarily want to be rebuilt. The line between fixing and forcing had blurred, and Lorenzo had crossed it. I pocketed the note, swallowing a bad feeling that tasted like rust and ozone. My path was clear. Old Alley. It was a place you didn't go unless you were lost or looking for trouble. Tonight I was probably both. The alley was quiet, far too quiet for a place known for its symphony of rust, rats, and regrets. The sky hung low and heavy, thick with a fog that muffled sound and played tricks on the eyes. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist, whispering things I didn't want to hear. At the very end of the alley stood Lorenzo's old workshop, a crooked, forgotten building stitched together with mismatched metal sheets, tangled wires, and rusted gears, looking like one of his own monstrous creations. The faded sign above the door still swung in the slight breeze, creaking softly, "Tailor of time fixing what should not be fixed." The door was already cracked open, a sliver of light flickering from within like a dying heartbeat. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The smell hit me first, a sharp, metallic tang of oil and solder layered over something else, something that smelled distinctly like fear. The workshop was a hoarder's nightmare of forgotten dreams. The walls were lined with mannequins, cat-shaped, but all of them wrong. Their eyes were made of interlocking gears that seemed to watch my every move. Their paws were jointed like puppets, their metal limbs frozen in unnatural poses. It was a gallery of the grotesque. But one seat, right in the center of the room, was conspicuously empty. The big, leather-backed chair, the one meant for a living, breathing client, sat waiting. A voice, thin and reedy, slipped out of the shadows. "You came, Constantine." Lorenzo stepped into the flickering light, and my breath caught in my throat. He was older than I remembered, so much older. His fur, once a proud ginger, was now mostly silvered and thin. His eyes were sunk deep into his skull, hollowed out as if he hadn't slept in a decade. His paws trembled uncontrollably, stained with grease. And something darker, something that looked suspiciously like dried blood. "What's this about, Lorenzo?" I asked, my voice low. "The tail?" His eyes, wide and terrified, flickered towards the box I still held. "It's my son," he whispered, his voice cracking on the word. A cold, heavy weight settled in my chest. "Someone took him," Lorenzo continued, his voice barely a rasp, "and they left me that piece of him in return. Whoever it was, they want me to build something terrible." Before I could even ask the obvious question, who? He raised a trembling paw and pointed to the doorway behind me. I turned, my hand instinctively going to the small pistol I kept tucked in my coat. But he wasn't pointing at a person. He was pointing at a thing. A mechanical cat, easily 7 feet tall, stepped out of the dark. Its spine was a segmented column of polished steel. Its eyes were 2 glowing red lenses, and its joints clicked and whirred with every deliberate movement. And carved into its metallic chest, like a maker's mark from hell, were the words, "Finish what you started." Lorenzo stumbled back, knocking over a tray of gears that scattered across the floor with a deafening clatter. "It came last night," he stammered. "It left the box. It told me it would return. And if I don't complete whatever monster it wants..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The mechanical monstrosity took a step forward, a heavy, deliberate step that shook dust from the rafters and rattled the very bones of the building. For the first time in a very long time, I felt the cold touch of real fear prickle my whiskers. "What does it want?" I asked, my voice tight. Lorenzo swallowed hard, his gaze fixed on the glowing red eyes of the machine. "A heart," he whispered. "A real one." Just then, the city bells began to toll. Midnight. 12 slow, somber chimes that seemed to rattle right through my bones. As the final chime faded, the mechanical cat's eyes flared bright, casting the entire workshop in a blood-red glow. Lorenzo's whisper was barely audible. "It's coming back for me, Constantine, unless you can stop it." And then the lights died. One by one they flickered out, plunging the room into absolute, suffocating darkness. In the blackness a new sound emerged. A voice, metallic and synthesized, echoed from everywhere at once. "The final piece is due." Then came the scrape of claws on concrete, the whir of powerful servos. The thing was inside the room with us, somewhere in the dark, and all I had was a dying flashlight, and a promise to a tailor who had stitched too many nightmares into the world. I breathed in the dust, the fear, the suffocating silence. In Pawcity, the monsters don't hide under your bed. They build themselves, and sometimes they come looking for you. This was one of those nights. I fumbled for my flashlight, my claws scraping against the metal casing. I flicked it on just in time to see the machine leap, a blur of polished metal and screaming gears, coming straight at me, and I did the only thing I could do. I ran. Because even Constantine Cat knows you can't win a fight until you understand the thing that's trying to kill you. And tonight, something made of gears and nightmares wanted a heart, a real one. My job was to make sure it didn't get one. The hunt was on. Thank you for joining me on this dive into Pawcity. If you want to find out what happens next to Constantine, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next chapter. See you next time.